This is not a kid-friendly show.
Yo, what's going on, my dudes? Welcome to my channel. Now, normally I do like RuneScape news and maybe a guide here and there at some Let's Plays that I have going on. But today I thought I'd do something slightly different, and I really hope you guys enjoy it. So today I'm going to talk about my top 10 favorite quests of all time. This is going to be a wacky list, and it's my own personal opinion, and I'll give you why each one is my favorite as I go through this list. So I hope you stick around and see what I have to say, because I've got some weird outliers in this list. I hope you enjoy. So coming up at number 10, we have a Soulsbane. Now you're probably scratching your head like, a Soulsbane? Really? What the fuck? Let me explain. Now most of us have probably done this quest pre-EOC, heck, probably pre-Constitution. Any of you veterans out there know exactly what I mean. So back in the day when the max hit you could hit was something like a 35 or something with a whip, imagine how awesome it felt when you grabbed your anger weapon and you hit a fucking 300 on an anger bear, and then your guy just goes berserk when you feel that meter. That's like, I'm already setting the precedent for this top 10 list right now with that the pure nostalgia of that quest makes it so much fun, or made it so much fun back in the day when I did it, that I had to give it a place on this list. Now nowadays it doesn't hold a single drop of water in a bucket, but back in the day, who's with me? Who remembers hitting those ridiculously high hits? Like, that was so much fun. I really have no words beyond that. That was the funnest thing ever back in the day. Next up in number 9, we have Some Like It Cold. Now, I've always been a fan of the penguin questline. The penguins in RuneScape remind me a lot of the penguins from Madagascar, and those have always been really funny to me, so I really like that quest. For this one specifically, you would go to a whole new area and you would do some espionage in the walrus encampment, and it had so many funny elements. There was ping pong, they did their like rock concert, and did things with the polar bears, and it was just so much wackiness and fun to it that I've been waiting. You can tell from my voice, I've been waiting for another penguin quest to come out. Come on, Jagex, give us a new penguin quest. It's always funny to see the way they take it. I really can't get enough of it, especially Ping and Pong. They are like, they hold that down, that quest line, they hold it down hard. There's some funny characters in that quest. Moving on to number 8, we have Broken Home. Now this is Jagex's like first attempt to try to make a spooky quest, and they really hyped it up to be a spooky quest. When you played it, it didn't actually really live up to that level of spooky that they played it up to, but I still really enjoyed it because it was like very different. You went in there where you didn't have any food, you couldn't bring any items, you had to just fend for yourself and make use of the items you came across, and it had really interesting puzzles and stuff. But here's the thing, I think it did hit the nail on the coffin when it comes to the level of spooky factor, because when I think of spooky, I don't think of this new modern thought of spooky. If you don't feel afraid, it's not a scary game or video or whatever piece of media. If you don't feel afraid, it's not considered scary. And I don't really necessarily agree with that, because I think it really set the mood right, where you felt unsettling the whole time. Because I remember specifically that one time when you reach into that maid's mouth, I was like, oh, something's gonna happen, like something's gonna like attack me or something, and nothing actually did. And I think a lot of people think that's why it's like not scary, where it didn't have any moments where you were like jumping or anything, but that whole thing of like not knowing what's gonna happen, I think that is what makes things spooky in the sense of what spooky actually means. So I think they really nailed it on that aspect, and that's why it holds a spot on this list. Coming in at number 7, we have Recipe for Disaster. We all know this one. This is the first quest where they broke it up into a bunch of different parts, which really broke the mold for quests. And the other thing about it is you could do the quests as you met the requirements to do each one. And you could do it in whatever order you felt you had, or whatever order you wanted to do them at. And that freedom was so new in the sense of quests that we've had previously. It was very different. Not to mention it came out with Barrow's gloves, and those were like top notch. Everybody had to have them. Everybody wanted them, and they held their value for a very, very long time. Like, it was really impressive how long that they held their value. And now that I think about it, this is probably the first quest on this list that makes it, for one of the reasons being the rewards. That was impressive. I think Barrow's gloves were on top until, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Goliath gloves, right? That's really impressive. Next up at number 6, we have While Gothic Sleeps. Ah, the Wrath of Lucian. Who remembers that? Not to mention, who remembers the 270 quest point requirement? That meant at the time, you needed to have completed every single quest to get this quest. Not to mention, it was epic in length and scale. And all those people who ended up dying in game, that was like one of the first times we had consequential deaths in the game. Permanent death. It was crazy. And who could forget the Stone of Jas? When you put your hands on the Stone of Jas for the first time and your stats buff up to like 255 and you're just wailing on these fucking tormented demons, tearing them a new ass. Like, that was so much fun. On top of that, at the end, you get rewarded with the ability to make the dragon plate body and dragon claws, my guys. Dragon fucking claws. I don't even have to say enough with this one. It had it all. It had lore, it had rewards, it had consequences, it had fun, engaging content in it. It was a masterpiece. Moving on to number 5, we have One Piercing Note. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this was the first fully voiced quest, and it really raised the bar in terms of my expectations of what quests could become. Like a fully voiced quest, this one was so immersive. And plus, it was a murder mystery quest, which are always fun to do in any game. And it had really cool cutscenes. I remember the first time you come into contact with the Ripper Demon, when you had to hide in the closet and wait for them to show up, and I was kind of like antsy. I was like, oh crap, it's about to happen after all this build up. Like, I was hyped. I was really hyped at that point. And then you catch them, and then they're booking it through the area, and you have to chase them down, and you have to block them off. And it was constant action. Like, it was really well done and impressive. And then on top of that, it finished with a really nice plot twist at the end. Like I said, this really set the precedent for my expectations going forward of what quests can become. And it was so unfortunate that they didn't really fully follow through with the whole voice quest thing, because I think that really ups the immersion when you have voice quests, and such a shame that they don't really do it nowadays. I understand there's a cost to it, but it's still really awesome when they do it. So coming in at number 4, we have Plague's End. We're getting in the juicy stuff now, boy. So it's no secret why this one's on the list. You get into Elf City. Do I need to say more? Elf City is the biggest hub, and it's changed the game dramatically since release. It's got extremely engaging content, and not to mention the quest itself was pretty fun. And you got to finally meet the Dark Lord, which was interesting. You got to kick his ass. And the light puzzles were not super intense on the level of Morning End Part 2, but still pretty fun and engaging. But overall, let's face it, it's on this list because it lets you get into Elf City. That alone makes it nowadays the most sought out quest. If I'm not mistaken, I would have to say it is, because there is so much benefit to having access to Elf City. Everybody wants to be a part of that community, so it definitely deserves a slot on this list. We're getting close, boys. We're moving on to the top 3, the big dogs. What do I have in store for you guys? Let's see. Coming up to your number 3 slot, we have the Ritual of the Majorana. Now, in While Gothic Sleeps, we got to see the Wrath of Lucian and how powerful he was just becoming. We knew he was a lurking threat, and we had to take him out at some point, and now was our chance to do so. This quest had so much crazy stuff going on. We had all the Majorana, we had epic boss fights, we had Sliske trying to turn you into a white. This is Sliske, the first time we're really seeing his character become the menacing character we know today. We get Glaciers. You get Glaciers from finishing this quest. Not to mention we get a whole bunch of rich Dragonkin lore. And the Dragonkin wreck the fuck out of Lucian, which is crazy because he was the most powerful being we knew at the point of the release of this quest. To see him get bodied so easily by another creature we haven't seen before and we've only heard of in stories was such an amazing thing to see. And that's why this was a really amazing quest. Now we got number 2, and that is Fate of the Gods. This was a doozy. You got to go to Freniske. You went to the World Gate You left Gielinor for the first time. We got to see a whole new world, and it was battered with these electrical attacks, or the environment was dangerous. You couldn't be around for very long. You'd die. It had a whole new element to the game where, like I said, the environment itself could hurt you. It was crazy. And then you meet Ma. You meet an elder god for the first time. That is, on a lore perspective, that is colossal. I mean, on the size perspective, they're colossal. It was so grand. I can't, wrap my head around how large at that point that this quest was. And then the big icing on the cake, we rebuild Zaros. I know a lot of people were like super happy when that came out. Look at the hype for Fate of the Gods 2. It's real, my dudes. This definitely deserves a high spot on anyone's top list. Like, come on. You knew this was going to be up here. And finally, the moment you've all been waiting for, number one, my dude, The World Wakes. If you were expecting to see this one on the list, you knew by this point it was definitely going to be here. The World Wake. This, bear in mind, this is why it's on my top, number one. This was at a point in the time where I wasn't very invested in the RuneScape lore at this point. I've always loved the lore, but nothing super exciting was really happening in the game post Ritual of the Majorana. Like, that was our last biggest villain, and not much felt really colossal on that scale up until this point. And this set in motion RuneScape 3 on a lore perspective. And we finally get to meet Gothics. And, who else is out there like me that when Gothics died, you were like, there's gonna be a shit show going on. We already know. And then Saradomin appears, and this is just a foreshadowing of so much fuckery going on going forward. We had the world events. We've had Saradomin versus Zamorak, Armadale versus Bandos. We had to fight Tuska. The World Wakes is the reason why we have raids. It's crazy. That is, if any quest deserves to be number one on any list, it's got to be the World Wakes. It opens the door for so much content that we engage with today. Sliske's timeline, everything. It's crazy. But yeah, guys, that has to be my number one. I hope you enjoyed. So that is my top 10 favorite quests of all time. I put a lot of work in this video, so if you enjoyed it, please hit the like button and let me know. Going forward, I might do more things like top 10s like this if people really want it. But if you're new and you're just checking my channel out for the first time, feel free to check it out. I got a lot of different content you might find interesting, so subscribe if you really liked me and enjoyed it. Anyways, thanks for watching, my dogs. I am out. Peace.